Welcome to the Hospitality Break Room, the podcast where we talk about the real conversation shaping the vacation rental industry. This season, we're diving into a topic that's becoming more important than ever: the relationship between vacation rentals and travel planners. For years, hotels have built strong partnerships with travel advisors and planners, while many vacation rental operators have struggled to understand how to work within that ecosystem. But that's changing. Today's travelers are looking for more personalized experiences, more space, and more curated stays. Travel planners are increasingly helping clients discover professionally managed vacation rentals as part of that experience. Throughout this season, we'll talk with travel planners, industry leaders, and hospitality professionals to better understand how these partnerships work, where the opportunities are, and what our industry can do to build stronger relationships with the advisor community. Whether you're a property manager, host, hospitality brand, or travel advisor, this season is designed to help bridge the gap between vacation rentals and the world of travel planning. Thanks for joining us in the break room. Let's get into today's episode. So hi, and welcome back to the Hospitality Break Room. I'm Rachel Alday, and today I have someone really amazing with me. Her name is Julie Byrd, and she works for Cabo Villas, which is now part of the Nocturne, should I say like family of properties? Is that right? Nocturne is
Luxury Villas collection.
the Nocturne Luxury Villas collection. So they're working with a number of different locations, all luxury, really amazing properties. And so I want to give Julie a chance to get a little bit of her background. And then her and I are going to, as we know, because this season we're talking about vacation rentals and working with travel advisors. So Julie has a lot of experience in doing that. So we're going to talking about a lot of different aspects of that. But first, I want to give Julie a chance to kind of give some info about her background, because she actually has a really unique background that does have some initial work that she did with travel advisors and with the villa side. So, Julie, do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today, Rachel. I always love spending time with you. So I started my career in 1990, and that was back in the days where I wanted to be a travel advisor. I went to a travel industry school so that I could join that industry. And I know it was really fun. And I thought I was going to go into this and become a travel advisor. And what ended up happening is I kind of went on the other side and I started working for a company called Classic Hawaii at the time. It's now known as Classic Custom Vacations. And they built their business based on travel advisor business. So when I was working in reservations at a very young age, I started taking calls from travel advisors and started developing relationships with them. It's a real fun story. I had an agent named Mindy at an agency named Hoffman Travel, which I think they've now merged into something bigger, maybe one of the bigger agencies. But Mindy and I got a connection on the phone when I was working in reservations for Classic, and she and I started just building that Hawaii business that she was calling me for. We started this relationship. I even went down to her house and stayed and met her, met the entire agency. The entire agency started working with me as their reservation agent, and my sales soared, right? Because we really built this business together, and it taught me really the value of that relationship and building that relationship. And that was, many years ago, many companies ago. I brought that into Cabo Villas when I walked into the doors almost 25 years ago. And we always prioritize travel advisor business. We know that this isn't just about a transactional relationship. We never thought of travel advisors as a channel. We thought of travel advisors, and still do today, as an extension to our sales team. So we really want to keep them informed about the destination, informed about our product. We stay in touch with the agents that book with us. Those advisors, tend to bring us not only the best clients because they're fully vetted, they're great clients for our owners. And yeah, we pay a commission for that, but it definitely feeds our owners with some really great guests. They really know their clients. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is like the crux of why I wanted to do, a series of episodes about this topic, because it's like there are some of us out here that know there's this huge value. When you're a vacation rental company, there's a huge value in working with the travel planners. But then you kind of run into all these roadblocks, right? Because we don't have like an amazingly easy system set up for distribution. And so sometimes maybe when there's roadblocks, you just say like, screw it, I don't want to do it. But there are some people like Julie, right, who she has like found the way to work better with these travel advisors to make it a smoother relationship. And then she's found that like there's so much business that can come from that. And so I think this kind of example, and Julie has so many examples of this, but this is really what I think a lot of people need to see. Number one, that there is a ton of opportunity for vacation rental companies to work with travel advisors. And number two, that there are like some ways we can learn from each other that make it easier. And then I think just the talking about it and the kind of staying focused and not forgetting to be thinking about this. I know there's a better way forward. And I feel like if those of us that are, hoping for that, if we talk about it a little more frequently than maybe it's been talked about in the past, we could maybe make some more headway. Okay, so Julie worked with this company in Hawaii and then ended up at Cabo Villas. So take us on a little more of this journey about how you're working with Cabo Villas and like how that sort of informed your understanding of how working with travel advisors in this industry can go.
Well, I'll tell you, our founder, Don Hershout, he had, when I first started working for him, he had some multi-line reps that were out in the field, which is really what you have to do. It's a ground game with travel advisors. Thankfully, we got our brand in front of them many, many years ago so that they knew who we were through these multi-line outside sales representatives. That kind of phased out after a few years of us working together when the internet boom took off. I mean, this was, 25 years ago. So it was before even Expedia existed. So this was definitely, a different time in our business. Since then, we've really nurtured these relationships. So we've kept a database of all of our travel advisors. We keep in communication with them. We do things on our side, and we've always done this, is we have a non-branded website that when a travel advisor contacts us, which, what we love about them is that they, really know a lot about their clients. We'll put together some options for them and send links to our non-branded sites. They can forward that very easily to their clients. And then when their client arrives to the destination, we treat them special. They get better amenities than our direct consumers. We really want to build that travel advisor up in the eyes of their client and really deliver on what we've promised, and over deliver on what we've promised, because we want that travel advisor to shine and send us more of their clients, and tell every travel advisor that they know how we treated their clients. So we welcome them. Yeah, we welcome them with like a butler service and upgraded appetizers and specialty margaritas, and a note from the travel advisor, not just.
See, okay, I've been talking about this on a couple of the other episodes we've done so far. So, like, my experience with travel advisors when I have booked even just like hotel stays through them, right, is that I get this note when I check in, you get the, extra treats when you arrive. And I've been saying, like, this is what we need to be able to build a framework to allow for easier execution within the vacation rental industry. And that's exactly what you're talking about, right? This concept where if a travel planner books at the hotel right now, they know because of arrangements and contracts that they have in place that there'll be these notes, these extra gifts. And then when they book with the vacation rental companies, they don't have those arrangements usually in place. But I feel like, Julie, this is a really good example of like, okay, so with Cabo Villas, those arrangements were made, right? Like you had specific relationships with some certain travel advisors. You set up parameters where you're like, I have this website, I can send you links so that it won't be the branded site and it'll make it the way that it works best for the travel planner, the travel advisor. And then you are like, guaranteeing that there'll be a note and some extra things at check-in. And to me, that's so smart, right? Like this example that Julie's talking about, like this is this is like the ultimate way that we would want for vacation rentals to be able to work with travel advisors. Now, ultimately, it'd be awesome if there was a way to set this up so that like any vacation rental company could kind of go into some system, agree to certain parameters, and then those travel advisors would be able to book knowing that stuff would be in place. And since we don't have those tools right now, it's only the companies that do this on a one-off basis, right? I do understand too that like if you're not luxury, maybe this is hard to achieve, right? But I think you have to start somewhere. And looking at an example of someone who can achieve that, I think helps everyone to realize it's possible. And like this could be done to different degrees, right? Like everyone doesn't have to do it the way that Cabo Villas does it. That's a very luxury way. But I think if you can take that example into your mind and then think about maybe how it could work for whatever you're managing, whatever some other companies, maybe they have a different level of properties or different price point. There's some level to which they could, execute something similar. And I think that creativity and like just that willingness to try and execute that way, I think is the game changer. Okay, so
I'll
do you
tell
want
you
to
though, I'm
tell
gonna
more?
say
Yeah.
travel advisors, what they're used to using is a consolidator, right? And we know who those are. They've gone in and they've partnered with property managers like us. We're adding an extra layer in between us and the travel advisor. So rental escapes or villas of distinction or a one fine stay. Those are, they're marketing to the travel advisor community, and in kind of a big way. And so what we've really, prioritized is making sure that the travel advisor knows that they can find us directly and take out that one extra layer in between because it's like a game of telephone. The further away you get from the guest, the less you're going to be able to service them in the way that's really going to drive future business, and I think yeah, and one of the other things with travel advisors that's really, really important is to make sure that you don't market directly to their clients. Sometimes, we've got to get in communication with the clients at some point in the booking funnel because we're like, okay, we need to talk about menu items. We've got caterers coming and we have door hangers. And do you like this better than this? And sometimes we might get in communication with the travel advisor, but you have to set up the infrastructure really in a way that ensures that that travel advisor client never receives any of your direct marketing. We also, have a system that flags those travel advisors and their clients so that should the client come to us directly without, going through their travel advisor, we've got some protections in place that we're going to automatically send that travel advisor commission because even if they didn't bring the guest to us again, they initially brought us the guest and we don't want to take their clients. That's the number one way that you can ruin a relationship with a travel advisor if the client books with you directly.
Right. And so I think it's like, I keep going back to the same concepts here, but I think it's important for everyone to understand because it's like for the hotels, these boundaries of, protecting against the hotel directly marketing to the guest and going around the travel advisor, right? Or these arrangements where maybe there would be some allowance for communication between the hotel and the guest directly, but that only because there'd be like a contract in place to ensure that guest like remains like being registered as a client of that travel advisor. So like you said, like future bookings would still receive commission. You know, the dream is that one day we would be able to, in the vacation rental industry, have some tools that would allow us to set up those same parameters more easily so that there could be an easier relationship, right? But so we don't have that right now. So we have to set up those arrangements ourselves. And I think that can feel like an insurmountable task. Like how could I possibly make these arrangements with all these different travel planner organizations or travel advisor organizations? And so I think the key is like you have to start somewhere, right? The goal is like number one, to build some relationships with some travel advisors, whether it's with the companies or just with some individual travel advisors. Find out what parameters they're looking for, right? Like what level of comfort would they have for you to give them some arrangement where you're going to ensure that you're not going to market directly to their guests going around them. And that if that guest were to book again, that they would get commission, and that there's some way to communicate with the guest where you're not going directly to the guest too often. You're trying to go through the advisor, but under certain circumstances, whatever. And that you would have the arrangement so that you could ensure that when that guest checks in, they're going to get a note from their advisor. They're going to get some special treatment. And so these are all like the basic parameters that are needed. And again, on a one-off basis, it can be hard, but you have to start somewhere. And I think, Julie, like you're such a good example. And I know with Abode, we've had similar situations where like when we are able to meet those needs from the travel advisor side and we're able to build those relationships and the boundaries in, it can be like an incredibly fruitful relationship because I'm not trying to repeat everything, but like what Julie said, you're talking about pre-qualified guests, right? Essentially people who we know are people that book that kind of a stay at that price point. We're matching up really obviously that like, this is what we have to offer. It's exactly what those people want. And here's this travel advisor who has the clients, those exact kind of customer that wants what we have. And so it's really, really worth it. I think the concept of like the unbranded website is really interesting. Like from the Abode side, what we've tried to work on are like unbranded PDFs. So we've tried to create like a PDF for each property, and we're still in process to get this done for all the properties where we could give information to the travel advisor. So it wouldn't be branded, so that it wouldn't be sending that customer like to our website. It would just be providing them with the information about the home and then letting the travel advisor, maybe clarify on the pricing if we're talking about like some, determining if the percentage is added on to the total or if they're bringing it out or whatever it is. Like it's giving them all the information they need so they can work with the rest of it on their own.
There's gotta be an AI way to do those PDFs. Because it's like literally we should not be creating these. There should be a way you can say, create a PDF from this page and make it look like this. I've been talking to our IT team about that.
Right.
But
It's like, how do we prioritize this in all the things that like we have some AI people that have started helping us with like some like CRM type stuff. And it's like, okay, I'm always thinking of new ideas. This is another one where it's like, I don't want to ruin the queue of stuff that we're working on, but could we possibly fit in like, because it's so true.
our
It used to
marketing team,
be
like, laughs at us about it. There's no way they're gonna go
right.
in and create all those PDFs, right?
But
There's
it's
gotta
like
be
AI,
a way to make it
right?
through
It used to
AI.
be
Yeah.
before AI, this definitely felt impossible, but it's not impossible because people are doing it. We're doing it. I feel like Cabo Villas has got like this unbranded website. Like we're looking at PDFs. There's all these ways, right? Like we're all out here, kind of like the old days of vacation rentals, where we're like now all out here trying to solve it in our own way. And I'm just like praying that if we talk about this enough, like a solution will come forward where we can all work through one. I know it's going to happen, right? Like, come on. There's no way that's going to continue for too many more years where we have these two entities, right? Like we have the vacation rental companies, and specifically like on the luxury side, we have the product that these customers want. And then the customers that are working through the travel advisor companies, they want what we have. And now we just need the way to get together, right? And so I feel like if we don't talk about it, it's never going to happen. And if we talk about it, it could happen. So let's clarify a little about like the unbranded website or like say a PDF, or maybe someone who's listening, maybe there's like a better way that someone else does this. But what we're talking about is a way to give the information about the property and about this potential stay to the travel advisors in a way that's not like sending that guest to your website, right? Because the point is we don't want the guest to go around the travel advisor and go to your site. We want them to make that booking with your company, but we don't want to, again, you're trying not to send this client away from their travel advisor, which is how they're going to be coming to you. And so, like I said, there's this PDF concept where we can like put all the photos and put all the information and sort of hand that over in a way that's easy for the travel advisor to deliver it to their client without, circumventing. And I love the idea of an unbranded website too. Is there anything I'm leaving out with like, I don't need you to go into like super detail. If you guys have created this site, to me, that's like proprietary. And I don't feel like you got to tell everyone exactly how to do that. But just like in the more general way, is there anything, if we were explaining this to someone who's thinking, oh, PDFs or like an unbranded site, I've never thought of that. It's like, I don't know. Did I miss any of the pieces of like kind of what would be
No, I mean,
included
you
or the
wanna be able to
approach?
provide the travel advisor with, and that's why we went with the unbranded website, and we've had this unbranded website for as long as I've worked for Cabo Villas. Our founder had it from the very get, is to be able to give them resources that are available on our site. It pulls the same from the same database, so they get the same information a direct consumer would get, but they don't have contact information to us. They don't have any kind of, they don't have a way of booking real time because there isn't a property management system out there that's going to be able to attach the travel advisor to the online reservation so that you can, for sure know that that's what it is. Some travel advisors, they want it without prices. I think that the best travel advisors, the most luxury travel advisors, they don't even use our unbranded or our non-branded website. They use our general website because they have no risk of their client ever going anywhere else. And if they want to mark up the price, they don't mark up the price. They are very transparent about their markup to their guests because their guests care about them and care about that relationship. And that's really where you have to be able to cater to any different type of travel advisor, right? And the PDF does attach to some travel advisors that maybe want to, have a little bit of a different relationship with
Because
clients.
we definitely like had the request for the PDF. That's where we didn't make that up, right? We were like, okay. And so I think like one of the sticking points too, which makes sense, honestly, like it's a point of confusion that makes perfect sense, which is like, there's not a really consistent arrangement when you're talking about travel advisors booking vacation rentals in terms of commission, right? Because sometimes a travel advisor will like Julie's saying, they will have a client where this client knows, like some of these really high end travel advisors, they have like an annual fee that their clients are paying, right? So their clients might be paying 20 or 50 or $100,000 a year or something to be working with this travel advisor. And so that client already knows they're paying that, and they know that they're paying 20% markup or whatever, and they're fine with it, right? Because what they want is the amazing service. So in that case, it's easy to send a link and it's a much easier conversation. And then I do think there's plenty of times where a travel advisor is more used to booking hotels where they have this like commission that's coming out with rate parity. And so maybe they're not necessarily demanding rate parity, but they are looking for some percentage of commission. And then that can get sticky, as we know, because we have our homeowners who may or may not be cool with, some commission coming out. And depending on the travel advisor, it might be 8%, it might be 12%, it could be 20. And so that like becomes a little more sticky. And I think that, tends to require those one-off conversations with that travel advisor company or that individual advisor to understand what commission is what they're looking for and how can we make that work
Well, I'm
within,
going to
how
say
we do it.
the way to keep travel advisors and homeowners happy is to figure out what is your percentage that you can lose out of your commission to pay for the travel advisor commission so that it doesn't affect your homeowner's payout. Your strategy to try to drive business. And you have to get to a place in your percentage levels where you're comfortable giving that up. I mean, you have to think about all of the online advertising you do and all of the subscriptions you pay and the pay per click and all the other things that you're paying for. You have to figure out what that cost is and find a sweet spot for your company. I would say standard commission of 10%.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I was about to say, if it's 10 or less, I'm good with it.
Yeah. That 10% is going to nobody pays more than 10% except for this girl right here, which is why we've been seeing our business grow tremendously since we started increasing our commission levels. But
Well, that's a good way to tell people like how to get going on it is like if you can look at the math, right, and you can determine that 10% would make sense, which I do think, honestly, I mean, Julie, it sounds like you agree. It's like if you consider the OTAs and the percentages you pay for that and all the other marketing and everything, to me, being able to be comfortable with 10% is fairly easy, right? Like this can make math sense pretty easy.
And you want to give travel advisors clients rate parity. They want rate parity. They do not want to mark up. And I will say this also is it's really good. And I don't know what your strategy is on OTAs, but our strategy is that there is a little bit of a markup on all the other channels. So I always make sure that the travel advisors know that they need to educate their clients because their clients will be like, "Oh, I'm just going to get an Airbnb," and they hear that and they just kind of get scared off from it. Is they are paying more, right? And the consolidators, those other travel companies, they pay about 8%, I think, commission. So if you're paying 10%, you're going to get them away from those consolidators because you're getting a little bit closer to you so that you can really provide that hospitality level service. And that is where it goes. I mean, we made a decision not to list our properties on any of those consolidator sites. We do have a couple of them that we still work with because they have
Same, but I mean, I agree. We've kept it more to a minimum. And I think this is an interesting topic because I don't think that everyone understands this. Honestly, Julie, I feel like you have like a much deeper understanding than most people when it comes to, the vacation rental, the short-term rental industries and working with travel advisors, right? So when Julie's talking about consolidators, in case everyone's not totally clear, let's use like One Fine Stay as an example, right? So One Fine Stay is a great company, amazing, and they do really great stuff. They manage properties and they also do like this, I would call it like wholesaling or consolidating and but they're a way that you can get in front of travel advisors, okay? But then here's the tricky nature, right? So they are taking a percentage and the travel advisor is taking a percentage. And so now the total percentage that you're paying is growing. And it's not all going to the travel advisor who is bringing the guest in, but it's also going to like this middleman. So I don't inherently think that this is like all bad. I do understand the mechanics. And I think when you think about a consolidator sort of acting as a middleman, this for a lot of people managing like individual properties or working as a vacation rental or short-term rental company, this could be a great way to like get through the door on starting to work with travel advisors. Because if you work with one of these companies, you're going to be in front of travel advisors. Now you're going to have this higher percentage. And then that's a discussion of like, would you still have rate parity or can you, inflate a bit to help cover that? And that's always a discussion with any like additional channel or OTA that you're working with. So I don't think it's too crazy, but there is complexity here, right? Because not only is there a third layer in the commissions that are being paid, but there's another layer in communication sometimes where like some travel advisors will end up going to One Fine Stay and One Fine Stay coming to the vacation rental company. And then that can really like mix up communication and like take longer from the guests. I've had this happen where like things messages will be going through all those different levels and then take a really
Especially
long time.
during the stay, right? What if
Yes,
something was to
that's what
happen
happened.
during the stay and they feel like they have to call
Uh-huh.
One Fine Stay in the middle of the night on a Saturday because something's gone on at the property? I mean, that's not gonna solve their problem right away.
And then
What
One Fine Stay might not call us till the morning, and
Right.
now the guest is really mad.
That's why it's really helpful to have that direct communication.
Yes.
The travel advisor, I mean, we stay very connected to the travel advisor. Obviously, we have a full concierge team, so they are the first point of contact for all of our clients. But if something happens in destination, we're fully communicating with the travel advisor and making sure that they're aware every step of the way and making sure we protect the travel advisor at all costs. So if there's any situation that comes up, we need to be overly generous, right, to solve the problem because you don't want to have that look bad upon your relationship with the travel advisor. It's like you got to make that your core of what you're trying to do with that guest. And getting in front of One Fine Stay, it is going to give you a taste of that travel advisor business, but you're not going to be able to get the travel advisor directly, right? Because that's going to be part of your agreement with One Fine Stay. So I think organically, really going after these travel advisors, there's a couple of things that you can do. Um, you know, become part of your local tourism board, see if they have any strategies on trying to get in front of travel advisors. I mean, we are very lucky in Los Cabos, and they've won all these awards, WAVE awards, for being the best tourism board because they really support the travel advisor community. They have a Los Angeles office. We became private sector partners with the tourism board so that we can be invited to, if they have a ASTA. I mean, we've got one coming up next month, ASTA in the desert. It's actually going to be in my hometown. So I'll be attending
Oh
that
my gosh.
tourism board and meeting all the local travel advisors. There is
Yes.
Prost organizations, which Prost is a networking group.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's in Park City now too, actually. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you've got to join. I'm part of our Scottsdale chapter, and it's so great because it's a lot of travel advisors. It's the great travel advisors who really, know a lot about their clients, are curious. They really take it as a serious job, right? They're not just like trying to earn some commission on their own or get discounts. I mean, they can't stand any of those travel advisors that give them a bad reputation to just be looking for discounts. These are the real deal. I mean, we recently, just a couple of weeks ago, we did this Feed My Starving Children event with all the local travel advisors and just really being able to see how much we share our values, right? We care about the guest experience, right? You and I have talked about that for many years, hospitality versus just vacation rentals, right? That we, provide a level of service that you can't get from everyone, right? And that's the way the travel advisors, that's where their expectations are because that's how they treat their guests every step of the way.
Totally. I think like, a couple points. So one is for people that are maybe not sure about like the tourism board or how to find these things. Cause I remember like in Park City, ours is like connected with the chamber, which that's not the case everywhere. And so this can be really confusing, right? Like if you don't understand the difference between these different types of organizations, it can be confusing. So I do think if you're listening and you're thinking like, man, I want to start booking through travel advisors, this sounds really complicated. I do think it's a great idea that Julie just brought up, right? Like, so one thing you can do really easily is to go to your chamber of commerce, right? Like in your local place and talk about what's the work that's being done with the tourism board or what are other terminology for that, Julie? Like what are the other, I know there's like a bunch of different ways that can be referred to.
It's
I'm going to forget this. It's like there's like, so when you're in any town, like the tourism board and the chamber is not always the same thing, but
no, it's not.
somewhat
It's
sometimes it is.
marketing organization.
Destination DMO. Yeah. So DMO is something to ask, but you could ask at your chamber, is the chamber considered a destination marketing organization, or do they have local destination marketing organizations that they work with? And usually that's a good way. I feel like you can find, I mean, sometimes there's not like the best relationships between all of that, but usually there is. So you can look up destination marketing organizations, DMOs, within your place where you're, managing properties within your location. And you could try to find out what some of those organizations are. You can talk to the chamber, and these are ways you can start having those conversations. The destination marketing organizations will often be working with travel advisors. And so I think that that can be a channel to get you to start like understanding which travel advisors are really interested in your location, like where the properties are. And so you can start to have a connection through the chamber or through the DMO to travel advisors, right? Do you think that's helpful, Julie?
Definitely. And there's
Okay.
also like American is or it's American, no, it's Association of Travel Advisors, ASTA is the
Asta, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they do, they do trade shows, travel advisors go. There's a lot of trade show opportunities and that anyone can sign up for, get a booth at a trade show. I mean, that is a really great opportunity. I come back with a big stack of business cards of people that I've met. And you know what? Every single one of those business cards makes it on our travel advisor mailing list so that I can make sure they stay informed about our product.
And it's
Uh,
like, you could start small, right? Like we just sent someone from our team to the Mountain Travel Symposium, which is like a travel advisor, conference essentially, right? And so, sure, that's for like where we operate in the mountains in the mountain west of the United States. But there are conferences going on like all over the world where they're gathering these travel advisors. And Julie's exactly right, right? Like the ASTA conferences are happening in different places all the time. So it's not hard to look up that website and to start working through ASTA to look at finding access to conversations with travel advisors who maybe specialize in the areas where you operate. Because I do think some travel advisors are really into booking like beach vacations and Caribbean or Mexico and the Caribbean or whatever it is. And other people, there's definitely people that are focused on, mountain vacations. There's people that focus on Europe or Mexico or, only in the Americas or whatever it is. People kind of have their specialties. And so you can work through ASTA to kind of help find out how they have like targeted different areas of the world and how you can then use that information to try and start talking to travel advisors that focus on the areas where you operate.
yeah. The other thing is that you can also call on travel advisors that are in your local market, figure out where your number one feeder market is, look up travel advisors in that feeder market and invest on a trip there to meet them and to try to get in with them. You have to make appointments. They don't take walk-ins, but if you really start trying to work on that relationship, that's meeting them in person really makes a big difference.
Yeah. So like whenever we talk about stuff like this, whether I'm talking with Julie or like anyone, of course, in my head, it's like going really fast. And it's like, there has to be a way that we could like set up some like some sort of like collaboration between organizations, like through the RMA and with ASTA or like, and it's like, I'm always taking it too far. It's like, okay, look, that sounds good. That would be nice. But where we are right now is not a terrible place, right? Like there's ways to start before a whole structure is in place that could like make it easier for all of us, which like one day that would be so nice. But for now, there are ways because really, I bet Julie, this is true for you. There's always going to be like certain travel advisors that end up bringing you like the most business. Just like there'll be certain houses that create the most revenue with the most profit. There's certain homeowners that are the easiest to work with, right? There's certain guests that book every year that, don't ask for crazy discounts and that are always really happy with their stay. It's the same with the travel advisors. Like it'd be cool if we had a way to like talk to everybody and have these really bigger picture conversations. But like in the meantime, it's fine to just start with a couple travel advisors or even a couple travel advisor companies because you're going to end up building a relationship and it's going to be just a few of these relationships that could end up bringing in the bulk of the revenue anyway. And so it's like those one-off relationships are worth it. I have found that to be so true. And I always get ahead of myself, like over my skis or whatever, like where I'm always like, okay, there's a couple that are really good. Like, how can we blow this out? And it's like, that day might come, but for today, like just starting with what you can with what's in front of you.
And it's a ground game. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time to build these relationships. I mean, we've been working on it for 20 plus years, and really being able to, get our brand in front of them and have them feel like they can trust us, right? And that's really where it comes down to it with travel advisors is they want to be able to trust who they're working with. One thing that we haven't talked about yet, and something that is very standard in our industry is trust accounting. And there is this article in Travel Weekly that was put out last year about one of our competitors who got into um, a dispute with the homeowner. The homeowner decided not to honor existing reservations, and didn't give them their money back because they had been paying out the owner the deposits, right? Um, there's been a $30 million lawsuit against the homeowner who lost that lawsuit. And there was a Travel Weekly article about it, which I was just so surprised that that Travel Weekly article didn't talk about trust accounting, because this competitor of ours, really what they did wrong was that they didn't follow trust accounting. And that really shouldn't even be on the homeowner. That wasn't the homeowner's responsibility, although what he did was shady. It's really about us and telling travel advisors about the trust accounting, because when they're using these consolidators are using property managers like us. They don't know if we have trust accounting or not. They pay us the deposit. We collect the deposit from the client. They have no idea if we're sending that to the homeowner, how their client's money is protected. That's a really important thing to talk to travel advisors about, because they want their client's money to be protected.
Right. I mean, so like, of course, to me, this goes back to if we had these structures in place, like we could have contracts so that everyone involved could feel protected. Right. And without that, it is a little bit wild west, which I think is where, I could see that travel advisors sometimes want to go through a consolidator because that would probably feel safer. Almost like when a guest wants to book through Airbnb because it just feels like safer to them. And that is it really safer? Like, probably not. But, at the end, right, I just keep speaking of the goal because I feel like if I talk about it enough, it will happen, right? So one day there could be the arrangements like hotels have with travel advisors where they have these nice structures in place to sort of prevent needing to feel afraid of like if anything shady would happen. But I think in the meantime, it's like, yes, we should all be following trust accounting. And like if anyone's listening and you're in the vacation rental industry or you consider yourself like in STRs, like trust accounting is really important for a lot of good reasons. So I think that we should all know that like right off the top. But having a relationship with a travel advisor, like a personal relationship where they could ask you questions about your business, they could start to get comfortable knowing that they're working with a company that does follow trust accounting, that like, understands general accounting principles and is following and like handling the books in a kosher way. I feel like these are the kind of ways we can get around that we don't have the structure right now, right? So it's always back to connection and relationship. And again, it's like if you can just find a way to start to meet some of these companies or some of these advisors themselves, you can build the relationship. Because I agree, like I think a lot of the time when a travel advisor isn't looking at options for their clients in terms of like renting properties, it's because of fear, not knowing how the commission will work, not knowing if they can trust that reservation because they don't understand like how to feel safe putting that booking there when they're not sure how the accounting is handled or whatever.
And
And I think
that's the reason why it's been so long to get it to
yes.
mainstream, is because the
Yeah.
travel advisors are afraid. They're like, I'd just rather put my clients at a villa at the Four Seasons instead of going
Yes.
through an independent
Which
owner.
I understand it, right? It's like I totally get it. And when there have been like situations that go wrong, it makes perfect sense that someone's going to be freaked out about it, right? So it's like how do we right those wrongs? How do we prove that there are better standards now? There are many companies that follow like proper accounting principles where you don't have to worry, just like a hotel, you wouldn't have to worry because these are businesses that do millions and millions of dollars of revenue per year. And all of it is happening like in a protected standard, like approved by all the, official accounting principles. And there's just no way to really show that right now without a structure unless there's those of us that are doing it well, or we can have better examples. So there might be the bad stories, but there'll be the good stories too, right? To help show people. So I don't know, Julie, if you have some examples of like I don't know, some of the really good examples of when you've worked with travel advisors and it went really well, and then maybe even like an example of like when it didn't go well, and if that points to any like lessons that you've learned that have helped,
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you one thing is I'm gonna be so excited the day that Verma, like, announces some partnership with Asta, and I'm gonna say, "That is
right?
Rachel right there," because that would be the best
Now I gotta
ideal
do that. Now
situation,
I'm gonna have to make that my like,
is to
I'm
get them
running.
to
I'm
advocate
like,
for us, right?
yeah, so, like, my term is up soon, and so there's an election coming up, like, right in a couple days. It'll start, and I'm running again, for a board seat, so maybe that should make that my, like, stump is, like, "Asta and VRMA." Okay, I don't know, maybe I'll have to see, is that good or was that bad? Will they hate me for that? I don't know, but it's gotta be good. I think it's good. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So,
stories.
best stories. So I can tell you, we've got, I'll tell you the bad, okay? We had this client that booked with us, through a travel advisor, and, um, up leading up to the stay, it was very difficult to get information on the client, and it was a very big booking. It was like a $200,000 reservation, right? And we were aching for details about the client, and we it was like a roadblock dealing with this travel advisor. It really was. You know, I don't she's not in the industry anymore because we'd still be paying her because this client has now been our client for years. We still paid her agency, we still pay them commission on the reservation, and they come back to us year after year, but we were very happy to pay her and have her out of the middle so that we could offer the level of hospitality that these guests really expected to get. That's a bad story, and I don't think that even isn't in the even at that agency, we still pay that agency their commission.
I mean, I think that's a good story to use as an example because it's like when there's a negative situation, I mean, this is hospitality in general, right? Like we have to be able to work around that negative situation and make a positive experience for the guest no matter what, right? Like, especially in luxury, it's like no matter what. But I think you can still extend that to the concept of working with travel advisors and like how sure sometimes things might not be perfect, but that's not a reason to be like, I'm never working with travel advisors again. Like, there's always a way forward, and I think that's a good example of that.
Yeah, and I will tell you, it's like we've got a lot of travel advisors that bring us repetitive clients, right? We've had situations where, let's say, something happened at the house that we were like, "Oh, we've gotta relocate this client." Being able to work through a travel advisor who is trusted by this client is so much better than doing it directly with the client. So we had a situation where, something completely out of our control happened at the villa. We were, of course, very generous in our relocation. We upgraded them to a nicer property. But even in those scenarios, when you're dealing with a direct client, can get really sticky. Having a advisor advocate for you with the client and really have that trust in you and be able to vouch for you, right? To say like this was not something that was planned. We've had situations in that where it not only solved the problem for the client and the owner and for us in trying to get the house back into shape, but it also really it really cemented that relationship with the travel advisor because we were able to give the client a much better experience than they would have had originally. We've got some travel advisors that specialize in Los Cabos. So we've got one, I'm not going to say her name because I don't want anybody to try to
Yeah,
find,
yeah.
but she handles athletes so she does a ton of athletes, and it's her specialty, right? So she'll book them anywhere in the world, but, really being able to work on that relationship with her. She specializes in Cabo because she is in love with the destination. So, we really try to, when she's in town, we will have her over for a dinner. We'll have our caterer arrange it. We'll have, I mean, anybody would be willing to try to get this business from this travel advisor. So our owners are happy to host them. Our vendors are happy to set up a special dinner for them. Any of that.
I think this is another good point, actually, Julie, like, because we've done this. So now this might relate more to people that are managing properties at a slightly higher price point. I don't think it has to be at the highest, but probably, somewhere between the middle and the top, right? But this concept of when you can start to build some relationships with travel advisors, and then you can start to build out almost like your own SAM tours. And if you're not familiar with that is, it's kind of like when like a chamber or a DMO will bring in a bunch of media to like a location, right? To like to say to Park City or Jackson or Cabo. And they'll bring people in and they'll kind of show them all the experiences that can happen, a bunch of activities, have them stay in some really great examples of local lodging. And it's a way to like help that media start to then go out and, tell the story of this location. And you can do that on your own, right? Like we've done this where we have certain advisors that we work with that we have really good relationships with. They bring us a lot of business. And so we will pay for them to fly out. We'll put them up in a property. We'll, pay to have like what Julie said, like a private chef experience and do some experience around that so they can really get comfortable with the level of service that we provide our guests. They can understand what the properties look like when we're taking care of them. And then they have a much higher level of comfort when they're sending their guests to us. And so you can do this with like a few travel advisors at one time, right? You could kind of have some dinners put together where they're kind of all having dinner together, and maybe they're either staying, if it's a large house, maybe they can stay together, or maybe you've got smaller properties in there. However, there's a bunch of ways to work this out. And I feel like if anyone has questions, you can always reach out to me and ask. But I think this is a great way to get started in working with travel advisors. Like once you've, maybe had a couple people you've started to work with, you can really shine by showing them like a fuller picture this way. And you can really start to justify the cost of it when you look at how much it would cost you to like host these people and give them a little bit of an experience. And then you look at how that could relate to the bookings you can get from it. It does make sense on the books.
It sure does. And this is another thing of reaching out to your local DMO or tourism board, because a lot of times they will have these trips already arranged and mapped out for the year. And if you're offering to host something, they're all over that, right? We do a lot of collaborative fam trips is what we do with the tourism board. So they pay for the airfare, they arrange some activities, we provide the accommodations or just a meal, or any opportunity that we can get to get the advisors in front of our products, right? In front of our properties. A really good thing also is to have the advocates of the local travel advisors in your community, because you could do a fam trip. You could be like, we're doing a tour of 15 homes today. Any travel advisors want to come join us? Because their clients might be local, but their clients that are local have family and friends and people that come in that maybe want to stay in a vacation rental, and
1,000%.
an opportunity to see what we offer.
I mean, I feel like there's just so many ways to go about this. And I think maybe what we're talking about today, Julie, could feel like too much. Like maybe it feels like just a lot to someone. But I think even if anyone who's listening, if you could take like even one or two ideas from what we're talking about, and just start somewhere. I mean, that I know that's like what we did. Julie said when she got to Cabo Villas, they had already started some stuff. And I'm assuming Julie has taken that like so much further from where it started. But, sure, they had started some little things. And the same is for my husband and I. Like we started our business and we just really slowly started to understand the concept of travel advisors. We did work through the chamber, the DMO. We did like some of these little getting involved with the fam tours that were already planned, and then starting to build the relationships ourselves. And I think that anyone listening, it's like, you don't have to do all of this, right? Like you could pick any small little parts to get started. There's so much benefit to come from those relationships and those bookings that you can get. And I also think that the more of us in the vacation rental and STR industry, the more of us that start to take notice of the travel advisors as a distribution channel for what we do, and the more of us that start to like really put a good foot forward and kind of show that there's so many times that this can go really well. I think that, all of that will serve to help whatever the next stage of this is, which again, I am manifesting. Like there is a better stage, right? Like there is an easier way for all of this to go. But until we have that, we have to keep, I think, more people starting to realize the benefit of like this kind of a partnership that can happen, because more demand will help increase the likelihood that we'll have like better systems in place.
Well,
So
let's
Julie,
talk about where we met.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right? Because we
Okay.
met at leading
Yes. Women leading travel and
travel
hospitality. Mhm.
and we were the only 2 STR people there.
Oh, yeah. You know what? This is a really good point. Okay. So if you're listening and you're in vacation rentals, and if you're a woman, which, there's a lot of women in the industry. So there's this organization that most of us are not as involved with, but we should be. and that's Women Leading Travel and Hospitality. And it's actually a Skift organization now, right? Like Skift bought this organization, and it's a series of conferences. Like there's one big one every year, which I just went to not that long ago in New Orleans. And then they have smaller ones, like sort of all over the country and maybe the world, but I know all over, like in some different regions of the country, they have them as well. And Julie, are you getting more involved with that organization? I feel like you are.
Well, I do their quarterly calls. I don't always show up to all of their things because, it's the year of homeowner acquisition and retention, so we spend a lot of our budget making sure that that's where we're, make putting our efforts in. But I do try to make it to every single partner connect call. It's a spot where women get vulnerable about running businesses and help each other kind of come with some inspiration on how to handle situations that come up. They don't record them. They're very private, but it's, senior leaders at like United Airlines and Southwest and Marriott and travel advisor owners or consortium leadership. It's really, and I believe is it really gives you that level of professionalism in this industry. And I think we could use a lot more people in that organization because that will help that reputation of vacation rental industry, right? Because we're trying to get a little bit more mainstream and be in there with the hotels. And be able to really share our experience because it's hospitality. It doesn't matter if it's a hotel or a vacation rental. I would say we have a little bit more of a difficult job because we have more personalities and owners. But it is, it all has its own challenges.
No, it's true. I think that's a really good organization to bring up and for people to think about. Okay, so one more time, Women Leading Travel and Hospitality. It's owned by Skift. There's like Julie said, there's calls, I think quarterly, right, where you can join and you can start to be part of these calls. And then there are in-person events as well. And like I said, I was at one recently and it was really good. And I would say my only like detriment, my only like sort of negative thing to say about the organization is that there's not more people in the vacation rental industry that are part of that organization yet. I still see the benefit. Like I've gone multiple times to their conferences and I know that like the vacation rental industry will continue to have more representation within that organization. And so if you're hearing this, like look it up or you can ask Julie or I. And that's a good point. Julie, do you want to give any like a way that people could reach out to you, whether it's like LinkedIn or an email or what
Yeah,
do
I
you think is
mean,
the best
email is
way?
probably the easiest, Julie at cabovillas.com, super
It's so
easy.
easy. Yes.
Or LinkedIn. The messages on LinkedIn can get a little crazy because people send
Yes.
messages on there, but
It's true.
it
It
does.
becomes like a little not part-time, but like to go answer all the messages in LinkedIn can be a lot sometimes. So, but I do think LinkedIn can be an easy way to find people. But
And
Julie
a
just
good
gave you
way
her
to
email
to
too.
to connect with travel advisors as well, because
Yes.
a lot of
Yeah, I've been
travel
doing a lot of that lately.
on
Yeah, so I
LinkedIn.
think look, if you're looking to figure out more information about travel advisors, you can look on LinkedIn. You can look through Asta, you can go to your DMO. Like there's a ton of options right there. We've also given you a bunch of ways that you can start to interact with them, beyond just hoping that they come to you with potential bookings, but also like some more proactive ways to reach out. And I think like Julie can stand as an amazing shining example of like if you do this like really, really well, it looks like the way that Julie and Cabo Villas and Nocturne, work with travel advisors. And this is why I have been reaching out to Julie and also to Scott from the Nocturne team recently, because I really wanted to have more examples in front of more people of how vacation rental companies can work with travel advisors in a way that is like really positive, and it's a way that shows the vacation rental companies really well. It's a way that supports the travel advisors really well. Like there's so much, it's not all rainbow and glitter every day, but there's so many ways that this can go well. And I think more people need to see more examples like that. And so I don't know. To me, it's like you could reach out to Julie. You can ask her more about, how she's done this in the past. I'm always available to help. And I feel like I had put together like a podcast episode plan for Julie and I to work on, but I knew we wouldn't even touch it because we always have so much to talk about. And I also knew that Julie has so much background and this topic specifically that like we could probably talk for 3 hours without even meaning to. But hopefully some of this that we've talked about is like helpful to people. I don't know. Is there anything, Julie, that we didn't cover that you really wanted to make sure we covered?
I
Or
don't
do you
think
feel
so.
like we're good?
No, I think we're good. I
Okay.
think, just on a closing note, what a good travel advisor looks like is, somebody who is inquisitive, who knows their clients, who, will be able to answer all your qualifying questions to make sure you're placing them on the right property. Those are really the ones that respond quickly. Being responsive to them is like number one. Staying in communication. So if something, if you owe a travel advisor an answer on something and you don't have that answer, you need to let them know that, not just let them wait. So it's all about building that trust and having that be both ways, right? And those are going to be the travel advisors that you really want to invest in. That relationship is, the ones that are going to be responsive to you.
Yeah. Okay. So just take any of these ideas, give it a try, and then send us a note or something and let us know how it's going. And in the meantime, thank you for listening to this episode of the Hospitality Break Room. Thank you, Julie, for taking time to do this with me. And hopefully, we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much, Rachel.
Thanks for listening to the Hospitality Break Room. This season, we're exploring how the vacation rental industry and travel planners can work better together, and we're just getting started. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And if you found this conversation valuable, share it with someone in hospitality or travel. We'll see you next time in the break room.